Hello, welcome back to Property with Marco. So today I'm going to talk about why I love investing in UK property, or property in general. We're going to go over several reasons why I invest in property and why I think it's really one of the perfect asset class to invest in. So firstly, I'm going to talk about freedom. Well, investing in property is relatively passive. It's not completely passive. Don't think you can just sit back and do nothing and cross your arms and wait for the rents to roll in. That is not going to happen, right? But property is a relatively passive way to invest your money. You don't have to wake up at 9 o'clock, or you don't have to go to work, shall I say, at 9 o'clock every single day and stay there to 5 to manage a property portfolio. It's very, very more passive than that. So just to give you a rough idea about how much time I spend managing property. So I've got about 23 properties myself, and I manage a handful for other investors as well. I probably spend at the very, very max, on average, I'd say a day and a half per week managing property. And that is the very, very max. I've had a very quiet summer, mainly due to tenants not actually leaving and giving their notice to me. Tenants at the moment are staying put. They're quite nervous about everything that's going on. The increase in utilities, the increase in rents. The last thing they really want to do is move somewhere and potentially pay more rent. So I've had a very, very quiet few months. And I'd say probably some weeks I've got away with just a couple of hours a week managing a large portfolio of property and having over 50 tenants. So that's the great thing about property. It's relatively passive and it gives you freedom to do whatever you want to do during your day. For example, I'm also a private pilot. I try and fly at least twice a week, and I certainly wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have property as something that gives me an income in a relatively passive and freedom-like way. So I love, to recap, I love property because it's relatively passive and gets you that freedom, but also I love property as well because it gives you phenomenal returns. Where else can you see returns being achieved that you can achieve in property? So obviously you can invest in other assets, and I'm not really going to mention them too much, but stocks and things like that. But the thing about stocks is you're not in control of the stock, so you can't really dictate that share price. Or you and I as retail investors, we can't dictate a share price. Whereas you and I as retail investors into property, we can certainly heavily influence and heavily influence the profit that we're going to churn out from that property. It depends on how much we're going to rent the property for, which is pretty much in our control. How we're going to refurb the property, which again is more or less in our control. A lot of property variables are in our control, whereas the stock market, it's completely not in your control. You can't control if prices are going to go up or going to go down. And because of that, we've got more certainty in property, more certainty in the returns. So again, you get, typically speaking, higher returns in property and more certainty in property. And that's why I really like investing in property. And lastly, I like investing in property just because I think it's quite cool. It's quite an interesting way of making a living. It's bricks and mortar. It's actually a proper service. I'm not picking on stocks. Stocks certainly have a place, but investing in stocks to me is just like clicking a few buttons and reading newspaper articles. That bores me to death. Investing in property, you're out there in the world, you're meeting people, you're building relationships, you're actually providing homes and shelter for your tenants. What a great thing to be doing, right? So to recap, we've got property because we invest in property because it generates freedom, because it's a passive way of investing. It allows you to spend your time doing what you want, flying, spending your time with family, going to the gym, etc. But it also typically gives you slightly better returns than other asset class. And that's why other wealthy families and corporations, if you look at their asset allocation, a large chunk of that is real estate or property. And, if they're doing it, there's certainly a reason why. So that's why I love investing in property. I've probably missed a few things out, and I'd be interested to see why you love investing in property. Comment down below why you invest in property, or maybe you think you want to invest in property, and I'd love to hear why. So lastly, before I sign out, please subscribe to this channel. You're going to get loads of great content coming shortly about all stuff about property, about how to invest in property and to deliver exceptional returns. Take care.